Should be good.
We'll find out in a second. We are now recording.
I can't mirror. Can you see? Oh, you can't see.
Because it's putting black bars on the left and right hand side, but I need to figure out how to get this recent orders book the way I want it to. Good? But it is recording, yes.
Good here. Is it good there?
I don't have a talk. If I do 10 push-ups, do I win?
Ready?
Let go.
So this is a continuation of our Duracon talk. We just kind of, at the end, we had to rush through some of the stuff, so this is more of just the end of the talk. So this is a little bit about me. You don't care.
I care.
No, you don't.
Oh, I don't.
Okay. So we had the Duracon talk. It was kind of a continuation of our work we did back in 2012. All the different ways you can escalate privileges on Windows. So we just added to that. There was a whole spiel about go check out the shit here.
So first off is WinRM. Anyone in the room know what WinRM is, or Windows Remote Management? It's an amazing tool for attackers. So basically what it is the ability to issue WMI commands onto a remote system over HTTP. And this is authentication that happens over HTTP by default. Great. So no longer if you have to create a service on the system, no longer do you have to do that. Windows Vista and above and WinRM by default, you flip a switch inside of an organization. The greatest thing about this whole thing is I can actually ask Active Directory where the WinRM enabled systems are. So I just say, hey, where can I execute code without having to bypass any or creating services? And that's great. The coolest thing about this whole thing is that if you install IIS in the box, it automatically switches to port 80. So if you request if you see an IIS box on a pen test or something, all you have to do is throw a /WSMan, like all lowercase. If you get a response that isn't like 404, you know that you can execute code. Well, if that's on the DMZ, you're done. Game over.
And plenty of export modules to help you get through that process. So injecting into CAs, certainly useful for doing all kinds of sorts of evil things. If you have a CA on your server, you can apply binaries, you can assign code, you can do all sorts of other things. And a good thing you want to do is maybe proxy SSL traffic. If you submit an SSL server to your browser, super useful.
The guy who wrote it's actually in the room. So WPAD, I talked about this in defensive stuff, but it's also fun as an offense. So if you don't know what WPAD is, I've actually had people come up to me and want more explanation on this. So basically it's a computer name that a Windows system, if it has this checkbox turned on, will request out and broadcast and say, hey, WPAD, do you exist? And the attacker could say, yes, I do exist, I am WPAD. Then, for whatever stupid reason Microsoft decided to do this, it makes an HTTP request for WPAD.dat on port 80, which is a proxy configuration in JavaScript. So all you have to do is say, hey, all of your stuff, proxy it through me, please, and it's game over from there on out. This also works on IPv6 too, so if you have this installed, it looks for WPAD as well on IPv6, and you can say, hey, yes, I'm IPv6, I will give you WPAD. I will give you proxy samples.
So who uses PORTPROXY? Who's heard it? That's like more than actually you're supposed to know hackers. So you've seen it, it's awesome, we've talked about this a couple times. So super useful because you can proxy things from IPv4 to IPv6 and 64 and some other cool things. What's useful for that is, say you want to have an expo box, you can now say, when I can't get this thing on this port, I want you to go ahead and tunnel out to the internet over IPv6. So you've essentially made your tunneling device, you might need an hour on that except for a PORTPROXY rule. You can have all your other pieces now inside the organization actually talk to it and then funnel that out to you. So it can make all these responder guys life pretty hard.
Very hard.
And there's a mess going on.
So one of the cool ways you can use this is in the room seen the LMK stuff, but essentially it's a shortcut file that you can create with an icon to it. That the icon doesn't exist on a share. You say, the icon for this shortcut is on this non-existent share. Well, what happens is when someone sees that, when someone just pulls up the folder where that exists, they make a request for that icon so that they can preview it. Well, when that happens, if it's on a local network, it authenticates to that share to try and get to it. So if I have a port proxy set up that says the share is on this server, and port proxy and port 80 and allowing some of the web client-based web dev stuff to happen, it will actually, victim 2 that sees this LMK, this shortcut file, will go to victim 1 where I have a port proxy set up. It'll see that it's an intranet computer, intranet computer, and then the port proxy will forward the authentication out to my box. So now, I don't have anything inside the network except for a shortcut, a port proxy, and that's it. No malware, no nothing, everything's done, and I'm getting all the authentication for anyone that views that share constantly. Cool stuff?
Kind of useful. So, you mentioned SSL cookies before, so another built-in tool to Windows is Logman, which allows you to log SSL cookies, the post requests, the cookie data, data requests, and everything else. So, SSL is our place for all things bad, and you can now capture all that stuff with built-in stuff, which is pretty cool.
Thanks, Microsoft.
Thank you. The important part of that is it builds up really quick, so you can kind of monitor that or have a way to export that. Mark back in a couple posts on that. It's worth your time to read that stuff.
So this wasn't as public as it could have been, but there was a blog post about how net NTLM is broken. Well, net NTLM is not used as much as it used to be. For the V1, it's usually V2 these days, but on HTTP requests, so SME doesn't use it as much, but HTTP requests you see all the time. And the cool thing about this is that he found out that there's some crypto voodoo that you can do to this net NTLM hash, which has a challenge response and all kinds of craziness to it, and break it down into something that cloudcrack.com can throw into some FPGAs for 23 hours, and then you, at the end, have an NTLM hash, straight into the web. So now you can pass the hash all you want. So this is really cool. I wouldn't recommend submitting any of your clients' NTLM hashes to this thing, just saying. But if you want to test this out, it works really well. Okay, so DEP. I don't know about how many people build their own binaries for malware and doing pen test stuff, but if you build it on a Linux box, you're not going to have DEP opt-in on it. So most of the time, it's really hard for you to do it. So when you run it on a remote system and it doesn't work, if DEP is turned on for opt-out or you have to say no on it, it's going to make a big pop-up on the screen of whoever's logged in saying, hey, this tried to execute, would you like to approve it or not? It's not DEP compliant. Really bad when such that happened. Well, in Windows 2003, there's, at the bottom here, in Windows 2003, there's an undocumented function via a control panel that you can just throw in a command like a PS executive order that will tell it to automatically exclude this thing. So you can say, I'm going to upload my UI, and then I'm going to run this command to exclude it from DEP, and then now when I run it, it works. So in Windows 2008 and above, the registry app that's above, that's on top actually works. Someone actually told me that later. This is the bottom one's how you do 2003 and above. Alright. Finally, we get into zone transfers. So zone transfers are fun. They're great externally, but internally they're much more damaging. So if you do any kind of pen test, normally once you get into a network, you start scanning the network of your local range, or pinging certain things on the local range, or pulling down net view, right? Well, what if you could say, hey, Active Directory, just give me all of the DNS that you have? Well, if you're a domain admin, you can do that with WI with one single command and you're done. Great. Except for one thing, you have to do domain admin. Well, that sucks. So, if you've ever looked at AD Explorer, as a normal user on Active Directory, you can see all of their DNS entries. So, why can't I do that as a normal user with a command line? I got really pissed, started looking around, and I finally found this awesome system administrator that was like, I can't dump my DNS entries because I need to import them in a new domain that I'm migrating to or whatever. So he made this great little PowerShell script that does it for you. So if you go on this GitHub, pull down DNSDump.ps1, you can throw in your domain, throw in the domain controller you want from, use a standard user, doesn't have to have any special privileges on the domain, and then you pull down every single DNS entry in that domain. That includes the routers, the switches, the Unix system that you wouldn't get from a standard net view. This includes the IP phone and anything else you put in DNS. So now, instead of only targeting Windows systems in pen tests or trying to find those phones or those Unix systems or those SCADA systems, now you just tell Active Directory to give you all the DNS internally, and then you see all the static entries.